Good evening, everyone. It's been a while. How have you been? Oh, Anne, there's no more coffee. Now we're talking Colfifi. Hey, Sandy. Am I... are my videos scaring your cat? Hey there, Christine. Hey there, fan652. You're wondering if they do crew change on all, just like we did in the passenger company, and the answer is yes. There are crew based at all and in Bergen and in Oslo. So basically, and at Voss, of course, basically we cover for each other on the whole line. So if someone needs a vacation or if someone calls in sick, the distance between people isn't that long. So we basically got the whole line covered up, and that makes this whole operation very versatile. If you have a EU certification, you can basically apply for a job as a machinist or mechanic or operator in Norway. But of course, you will have to learn the Norwegian language because all orders and communication is in Norwegian. Holy cow. Thank you so much for that super chat, White Tiger. DJ Weidman, if I like a cargo slash freight more than passenger runs, well, yeah. I've been running passenger trains for 14 years. It's basically been my whole career since I started in the railroad business, and passengers has kind of been my thing. I thought that was, and still think that it's like really cool. But at some point it's it just comes to a moment in life where you need a change, and that's what really happened. Thank you so much for the super chat, Shore Boy. And so I thought I would try out freight, and as this far it has worked out really well. It's really different from running passenger trains when it comes to like the hours of the day you work. Usually I start kind of late in the evening and work through the night, whereas when I was working in passenger business, we would have to get up like really early. Our shifts would start like 8 minutes to 5 in the morning, but now like 8 to 5 in the morning is when my shift is done. So instead of getting up like really early, I can go to bed like really late, and that fits my rhythm really good. Thank you so much for the super chat, Countdown. Hello. Thank you so much for super chat, Brad. Bob Anderson, the signals you are talking about is for the ATC, or the train positive train control. What they do or tell us is that right there, if you look down into the track, you will see two balises. And those balises, they repeat the distance signal information that is connected to the next main signal. So, and the distance from that diamond-shaped sign with a yellow circle in with a black circle in it, it is at a distance from the main signal, so we don't have to go below like 60 kilometers per hour before we get a new update. Or yeah, it's basically just repeat of the signal information on the main signal. Over answer, your friend, does he drive to Norway? Thank you so much for the super chat, Rick. Gas lover, the thing I really like about running freight is the solitude. There's no one else on the train. It's just me and a massive amount of tons behind me. And you get to run at the hours on the railway where a lot of things happen. Most of the maintenance and stuff like that happens during the night, so you see a lot more people along the line. There's a lot of more stuff going on, like you meet on the maintenance trains and stuff like that, and you tend to see more of the weather. So for some, it's not strange, but the weather is usually, especially on the mountain pass, is usually worse at night than during the day. And when it comes to like snow readiness and that part, that goes kind of a bit down during the night. There are a bit fewer trains running at night, and so there's a lot more plow action. And yeah, you just get to see like the really, really bad side of the weather when you're running over the mountain. Chuck Maurice, I really, really like running freight, especially, yeah, like I mentioned, the part where on the solitude where you basically are alone. And I also like the part where everything is just running smoother and you have to be like real much more on the edge compared to when running passenger trains. This is a bit different because of mass and the challenges like during the fall when you have leaves on the track, slippery track, and all those parts because we are running heavier trains. So yeah, that it's a challenge. It's fun. Christian Engset. Yeah, thank you. I think you're gonna really love the next video. I think everyone is gonna really love the next video. I started editing it today, and you can say that plow season it's open. It was like really crazy on the mountain, and it is forecasted to snow like crazy for the next 3 or 4 days as well. So it will just be piling up. Troy boy, thank you. Yes, those super chats really do. But most of my inheritance is going to go into that camera system. Due to the chip shortage and price gouging and everything going on in the world. Yeah, and the system is like crazy expensive. Hey there, One Shot Comics. How's New Jersey? Did you guys get like a crazy amount of snow like last week or something? I'm Elvo. You should really sign up for the newsletter. I am explaining in text there about the signals, what they mean, and how we abide by them and how things are connected. So sign up for the newsletter and you will get access to that information. Bill Tubbs, yes. You ask if freight trains are slower in speed in general, and the quick answer to that is yes. We don't have on the freight trains. We don't have like vertical stabilizers that compensate for tilting. We just have the stabilizers for like weight and how the buggy travel in the track. So, and bumps and stuff like that, of course. So we are not allowed to run on what's called overspeed or increased speed. Like the signal we're passing like right now, you see like the +5 under. That is for passenger trains that have the tilting compensation. So they can run with the speed like 7, that is 70, and then you can add 5 kilometers per hour on that, so you can travel like at 75. But for freight trains we have to run at 70 kilometers per hour, and that is one part. And then you have like limitation if you have certain amount of pressure on weight on each axle. So if you pass that threshold you have to reduce speed, and you also have a threshold for the length of the train. So in Norway at the moment, the maximum speed for loaded freight trains is 100 kilometers per hour. That's basically the standard speed we're running at right now. And so yeah, when it comes to that speed, it's of course slower, but we also have to take into the consideration here that passenger trains, they stop more often than freight trains. So the average speed might be close to identical or slightly faster depending on what kind of passenger train and their schedule is and stuff like that. As a freight train driver and freight trains in general, you have to wait on sidings a lot more because that is more, because passenger trains are prioritized during the day while freight trains are prioritized during the night. But during the night there's just the night train running. So yeah, we're a bit slower, but yeah, takes a bit more time, but I mean, kick back, lean back, just relax. You will get there. Junior Sky. You wonder how many languages I speak. Basically Norwegian and English. I can understand some very, very simple German. But yeah, that's basically it. And why I'm bilingual. Um, well, what can I say? I can thank cable TV for that during the 80s. Yeah, Hollywood movies, series, stuff like that. I guess that's the reason why I'm bilingual. And of course, in Norway, you start to learn English in the 3rd grade. Well, at least when I went to school. And yeah, yeah, that's it. Yes, I am. I actually operate these trains. It would be really weird if I just film them or, yeah, without operating them. So yeah. Gabby Zero, the reason for the more vibrations you see in the videos are that there are more vibrations when you have to push a lot more power down into the tracks to start to get moving. That's one. They also sometimes do have softer suspension, but the main reason for the vibration is that I designed the camera system I'm using now currently to the cab of the L18 and the Flirt. So the vibration due to that was a lot less, even though it does feel the same. So yeah, so I'm working on a new system that is going to compensate for that. So hopefully in the future we will be rid of that vibration, because if you find it annoying, you can believe that I find it annoying too. Anton, you are live operation right now? No. This is a pre-recorded video for obvious reasons. Like mentioned before, I would never be able to do live streams directly from the cab, and that is because of safety and liability issues. YouTube would not look on this operation with kind eyes if we had a live trespasser strike or accident, or yeah, like hitting an animal. That wouldn't look good. It would be a direct breach of YouTube's terms of services, community standards, and yeah, it would basically just shut down this channel immediately, and the judicial backlash on all of this, holy cow, I think I would be in the real deep with all those subpoenas coming if something like that was broadcasted directly onto YouTube. Thank you for becoming a member, Deborah. Richard, if I travel other routes with freight compared to passenger trains, yes I do. Right now I am operating this out of Voss like I used to, but I do also operate on other lines, but of course due to the current situation with certain virus going around, we have maintain mostly the operation on where you live, so you don't have to travel as much, but when needed we go to other lines as well. So I've been to Kristiansand on the South Line not long ago. Did not record that because it was done in freaking dark. So it would be like, yeah, you wouldn't see anything on that trip anyway. So if I do get a trip down there during the day, I will definitely record it. Gisela, have you ever had a stowaway on your freight train? And what are my thoughts on freight train hoppers? I don't know if I had a stowaway. It's not like that we're able to see them because our trains are like really long, and stowaways, they hide. They're really good at hiding. So I might have had stowaways on my train, not sure, but could have been there. What I think of it, well, yeah, it's not safe. It's like, I mean, seriously, hiding away on a freight train is not the best idea, safety-wise, because if something does happen to you, there's no one there. There's no one there to help you, and we won't discover that person either dead or like seriously injured before you come to the end stop. So that is a really bad thing, and that's why you have conductors on the passenger trains, because they are there for your safety. And hiding away on a freight train, like way out in the open, because we just run containers and trailers. So yeah, it's not safe. People, do whatever you want, but please don't do it on my train, because I don't want something to happen to you on my train. Turbo Thunder Gaming. Is this job difficult because you want a similar job? If you want a similar job like this, I think you should go for it. Do what makes you happy, like seriously. A job is something you're supposed to have for the majority of your life. It's the thing you're going to do your whole adulthood. And if you don't appreciate, or if you don't care about or have a passion for what you're doing, I don't think that's worth it. So if you want to have a similar job like this, you should go for it. Thank you for becoming a member, KDS. Thank you, Bullsteady. So, were you going to watch the Olympics, you said? Fifth and one? If I like freight better than passenger trains? Well, given the situation right now, I would say yes, I like this better. And that might be because I've been running passenger trains for 14 years, so things starts to become a routine, and it's the same locomotives, it's the same EMU, and so yeah, this is a lot more exciting because it's new, it's different, and you gain a lot of new experience. Holy cow, John. Thank you so much for that super chat. Brad Miller, Thank you so, so much for that super chat. Sandy, the biggest adjustment to switching to freight trains, besides the weight and length, well, yeah, I would say that because it's kind of a combination because of size and length, or weight and length. It's the length of the train has an effect when you go through S curves. Like if you like here, it curves to the left, then to the right, and then to the left again. That creates a lot of resistance because the inertia wants to go straight forward. That's just how the force is. So in physics terms, we are basically forcing a movement that is straightforward to another direction. And when you then pull through an S, the train really wants to just stretch out like a line, to make a line, so you have friction or increased friction and resistance both left and right. And then you have to of course adjust the power. You have to like add more power to maintain speed. And if you add a gradient to that as well, you have even more resistance. So you have to be more on the edge when you are running freight trains. You have to read the terrain a lot more. You have to plan your driving a lot further ahead. So yeah, but then again, when you have this mass, you can utilize the topography. So when you're going on a straight line, or you have slight curves and stuff like that, you can use the topography to adjust your speed and to maintain speed. So you think more like I want to roll a lot more, so get up to speed and try and like roll, so you don't have to use a lot of brakes and you don't have to accelerate. So you just like use the train all the way to compensate, to use as little power as possible. And K. Nelson, how much video do you cut while at sidings or station for oncoming trains to pass? Well, I don't do any editing when I'm at work, because I have other things to focus on. Our waits at sidings and stuff like that usually isn't that long. You like have maybe 4 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Sometimes you have as long as 20. And you might also have like 40, 30 minutes depending on where on the line you are and what kind of train you're meeting and how many trains you're meeting. So we have other things to do, like for my part, I'm kind of planning ahead, looking at the other traffic, because we have the possibility to do that as well. Sometimes we get a call from the dispatcher or traffic controller who tells us like that train is like that and that delayed, or they are so much ahead of their schedule, so I'm gonna hold you here, but you're gonna gain that time another place. So there's a lot of things going on in the background, which I of course have edited out. So yeah, the answer is I don't edit when I am at work. I do all the editing at home, or I can do the editing when I have some spare time at the hotel and stuff like that, unless I'm sleeping and have to kind of turn my rhythm around from like day to night. Deadlock666, thank you, and I will keep those videos coming. Naomi Garza, you are asking how far back did you have to slow the train down in the Finse tunnel to stop and wait for the other train? I start to brake early because I don't want to like stress into a station. So I was starting approximately in the middle of the fog because I thought like, there's a lot of fog in here because of the piston effect, and I don't see anything. So I need to have control of the speed, make sure that I'm able to act on any restricted or more restrictive signal. So I brought the speed down as fast as possible and rolled carefully into the station. And yeah, so it would be the speed I would be running at is like slower than with a passenger train, because with a passenger train you have it's just the characteristics hard word on the brakes that makes it possible to kind of like go a bit faster, but with freight trains, if you apply too much brake when you are at low speeds, you just lock up the wheels because of the type of brakes you have, and that is not cheap. I can add that that is also a huge difference from passenger trains, is that you have to apply brakes a lot earlier, and the reason for that is the length of the train. The longer the train, the longer the main brake pipe is, and that means that a lot more air has to be released out, and of course that takes longer time because of the volume, and that means also that the brakes will apply a bit slower than on passenger trains. Yeah, so you have to kind of compensate for everything. Thank you so much for the super chat, all. Mr. UK Sergeant, that's exactly it. You don't want that flat spot on the wheel, because that sound, and what flat spots, if like serious flat spot, what they can do to the track during the winter, not a good combination. Because when you have a flat spot, you get like really hard bangs on the track, and that can make the metal fracture, and then you have a fractured track. And a fracture in the track is serious business, because over our head we have the overhead wire. That is just one of the faces, so you need two faces, or like a plus and a minus, to get the power from the converter back to its source. So the return current goes through the track. So if you have a fractured track, you can actually see a flash, or like a beam between the tracks. That is electricity, and that electricity and that power is the same as the overhead wire. So if you are in near vicinity of something like that and you see it, keep your distance because you don't want to get electrocuted. On Rally, what you do if your brakes stop working? What can you do if you don't have any brakes? But thankfully, train brakes are designed in a way that if you get a fracture on the main brake pipe, all the brakes in the train will apply. So that's how it works. So if you don't lose brakes in that way, so if you like, unless you of course malpractice everything about brakes, then you can put yourself in a really sticky situation. But done properly in the correct way, that's not a problem, unless something like really bad happens and you have to be standing out without a compressor for a really long time. Then you should go out and apply those handbrakes. EMR Productions. Have you ever had any failures or otherwise on your routes? Yes, I have had some failures, but thankfully not in freight services yet that I can remember. Besides a flat battery before the day started, that was like that really sucked. But on the line outside, no. But I did have that with passenger train due to electrical problems in the unit. So that has happened. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Everything breaks down at some point. Ali Brown on Facebook. What is the maximum grade of the track that these trains travel on? The maximum grade that these trains travel on is 25 per mil or 2.5%. EMR Productions. I noticed a hare running across the tracks in a video. And have I ever hit wildlife? Yes, I have hit wildlife. I've hit wildlife in a way that has been really gnarly. Yeah, I will just use the word pink mist, and that's gonna be about it. And it has happened a couple of times. Not very fun. The worst thing is like if you injure the animal and you know it's gonna be like hours before they can do something about it. Yeah. Animal strikes are less common now than before, at least on the Bergen line, because of better fencing and the way they kind of lure animals to places where it's safe to cross. PMR Production, you also have questions between the difference, if any, between the signal sign and plus sign signal. Not entirely sure what you're aiming at, but is it on the speed signs like the main triangular sign and the plus signal under it? The difference between those is you have like the base speed mentioned on the triangular sign with a number in it. That number is a 10 system, so 7 means 70, 80 means 8 means 80, and you have like 13 means 130 kilometers per hour. The plus sign under it is for trains that are allowed to run over speed on the line. So that is typically passenger trains. They are allowed to run over speed. So they can add like plus 5 kilometers to the number you see on the triangular signal. So you can see that when we move out of this station right here, you can see that you have a triangular sign that says 7. Underneath it, there's no plus, but if there had been a plus 5, that means that you can travel at 75 if you are a passenger train. And if it says plus 10, then of course 80 kilometers per hour. And there are places in Norway where you have like plus 15. So that's kind of awesome. And if someone is wondering about the hair, you should look for the hair right now, because it's going to be running over the track like really soon. There it is. Run, little rabbit. Stephen Richens, the yellow diamond-shaped signs that seem to tell you to sound the horn sometimes have lines through them in different directions. What do the different direction of the line mean? Okay, so when you don't have any line, that means it's for a general warning. If you have a vertical bar, that means you have to sound the horn when there's an halt in front. So trains that has a scheduled stop at a halt or like a platform, that's basically just a platform along the line, has to sound the horn. And the reason for that is that people should be ready that the train is coming. And for other trains, like those trains that don't stop at that halt, they don't need to sound the horn. Then you have a horizontal bar. That means that you have a level crossing that doesn't have both sound and complete gates, so it could be completely unsecure. Typical thing is because of low or like lack of visual line of sight to the train. So those signs are typical for like pedestrian crossings, like in the wilderness and stuff like that. So there we have to sound the horn. When you have like both of them, like a vertical bar and a horizontal bar, that means that you have like a platform or halt and a level crossing at the same place, and then you have to sound the horn. OBKB1, Obi-Wan Kenobi. When you deadhead from Voss to All, do you ride up front with the other driver or in the rear cab? I usually don't deadhead to All. My shift is usually like back and forth, but if I do travel with a freight train in the opposite direction, I usually sit in the rear cab. Reason for that is really simple. We live under a new normal where we have to keep distance from people, so the rear cab is the only option. Coco, do you know when you'll be catching a red light, or do you find out when you get there? We know. You kind of get an indication of what the main signal is showing with the distance signal. The distance signal if it blinks yellow, that means that the connected main signal is set to red. And the distance between the distant signal and the main signal is at least 800 meters. So then you know that, okay, there's a red signal coming, so you have to start braking. And for freight trains, that means apply your brakes now, at once. John Skinner, hello, how you been? Long time. And you have a question as well. Have you ever had a situation where the switch is wrong and you've had to back up until it is corrected? No. But I have been in a couple of situations where I have been closing onto Hallingscheid and the dispatcher or traffic controller has accidentally put us into track 2 where there's no platform. And running a passenger train that is supposed to stop at Hallingscheid, that is like a bad deal. But you notice that when you come to the distance signal, because it will be blinking like green and yellow, and then it's like, this isn't right. So I stopped in front of the main signal, called the dispatcher or traffic control and told them that, hey, dude, the switch is wrong. You put us into a track where there's no platform. And he went like, oh no. And are you able to stop? And I was like, yeah, I'm standing right here. All is cool. I saw it on distance signal. And so he just tore down the signal. We just call it tore down the signal. And so it sets to red and then 90 seconds pass and then he is able to like pull it back through to the right track. So, but I've heard about people who has ended up in track 2 at some station with no platform and like, what do we do now? Troy boy, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Tristan. William Whitaker, you ask, how deep does the snow get before they send out a plow? Thankfully, all trains in Norway are equipped with a plow, so we plow for ourselves. No, just kidding. We're able to do a lot of the work ourselves because of mass and speed. But here on the mountain pass, they also do have snow readiness during the winter, where they kind of drive back and forth with like super big snowblower and clean out the track in front of us. And they used to have 2 of them. I'm not sure if both of them are still operational, but one is. And you'll see it when we come to Finse because we're going to pass it. And at the other part, so they use like the Bilhawk, the super big snowblower. They use that on the mountain pass part between, I think it like usually rolls between Myrdal and Haugastø. And then you have like the smaller ones with a robot and like a big plow which goes and covers the other parts. So Bane NOR does have a really good snow readiness, and this year's been like super efficient. Wasn't until yesterday where I really started to get snow over the front and stuff like that. And I think that's like really cool. Makes our day like really special when the snow comes over your front and you know, yeah, there's a lot of snow moving on the mountain. And since it's gonna be like snowing for, I think it's like the whole next week, the mountain pass. So those guys who runs the snow readiness, you're awesome. You guys are really awesome of keeping this line open all winter, doing a brilliant job on that. That kind of reminds me of before these tunnels were open, the first tunnel we come to now, before everything was put into tunnels over the mountain pass, we used to run on the outside, and then the line was like really exposed to the insane environment this mountain pass is during the winter. And so before, in the older days, like before 1903, the mountain pass could be closed for days when they were working like really hard to clear the track. Especially on the part that went outside the Finse tunnel. It was those conditions were like truly crazy. John Skinner, yeah, I do really like this job. It's really different from passenger trains, but in a good way. So I know have my head working all the time again, and I think it's like really cool because you have to be more on and like really read the track, topography, and plan well ahead and stuff like that. Papa, yes. In Norway, we usually just run container trains, and yeah, for freight, we have just one train or two trains that have cistern cars like tankers, and those are like running acid and jet fuel. That's basically it in Norway, I think. But up north, you do have like iron ore trains running. Never been up there, never operated any of those, but I heard that is pretty cool. Let's see, another question. Trond Ellingsen, why did you change from V to green cargo? Better pay, more convenient working times? And another question, is there a toilet in the engine? I can start with the last question. No, there's no toilet in the engine, so you have to have a really well-developed party bladder, to be honest. So yeah, or else you need to do it on a bottle, in a cup, or something else that you can dispose of later. Why I swapped from V to green cargo? I needed a change, basically. Been running passenger trains for 14 years. Started working in NSB, or NSB, the Norwegian National State Railway, and which later became V after they split up and privatized the whole railway, put everything out on bid. Hooray! Then I started working for Green Cargo, and that's because I needed a change. I needed a change of scenery. That means that I needed to run other locomotives, another work schedule, had to kind of have something different that was not like super routine, start building new routines. Yeah, it's better pay. Yes, it is. And that is basically because we run more nights and have, instead of like individual like adds to the salary on what you do, we have like a uh flat add to our salary of 25%. So it doesn't matter if you run a day or run a lot of nights. You get the same pay. I think that's awesome. Ryan Jewel, thank you. And thank you so much for the super chat. And thank you, Rob Jackson, for your super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Daryl Crone. How is your leg healing anyway? And I'm really so glad that these videos are able to numb that pain. John Skinner, ooh, across country from Chicago to San Francisco, that's quite a distance. That is going to be so cool. Right, Sigmund? Yes, the next station we are coming up to now is Finse. Karen C. Did I have to go through additional training to start running freight trains? And the answer to that is yes. Even though you have, or to say it in a very simple way, like, yeah, sure, this is not going to be a simple answer. And all of that is because of how the railway is organized now in Norway. Since there are a lot more companies running here, you have several companies running freight, you have several companies running passenger trains. Everyone does have their own kind of rule book. You have the National Rail Administration, who has set a set of base rules which all the companies need to cover. Then companies like, if you take Vy, they can just cut out everything that has to do with freight trains because they don't run freight trains in Vy, the passenger department. So they just cut all of that out. They just run EMUs and one type of passenger cars, and that's basically it. So they just need to focus on those rules. And then they make a lot of rules that has to do with the safety of the passengers, that has their kind of readiness if they break down and stuff like that, and what you as an engineer or a conductor need to do in different situations. All of those things that has with passengers and those have with those type of carriages and those readiness procedures, we don't need those in freight company. So we have just cut out all of that. So everything here comes down to that when you go from one company to another company, you are basically uncertified. The only thing you have is certificate that says, or license that says that you are allowed to operate trains on the national railway network in Norway. You have the base training. Then you have to go into a company and you have to be schooled and taught everything about their internal procedures, how to calculate and check the safety of the cargo on board, because we are actually responsible for the composition of the train, the freight we're hauling. So if there's something happening to the freight, like let's say a door on a container that opens up and stuff like that, we have to be able to close those when we are running the train, because like here at Finsta, there's no one here to help us, especially if you stop like in the middle of nowhere. And you are also responsible to know what kind of cargo you're hauling. So if we have like a car with uh, fuel, any explosives and stuff like that, we have to know where in the train it is, what kind of substance it is, because if something happens, we will have to be able to tell the government or the rescue force that this car contains this car contains that, this is real dangerous. We're gonna need help with this, and this. So that's basically that the training consists of. And then of course you have everything about the difference in operating the locomotives. You need to be certified on those as well. So yeah, it's the training was quite extensive, and the training was also really extensive and intensive. So a lot of information crammed into a very few weeks. But yeah, it was cool. It was really fun. You had to be like really on all the time, and you have to pass those exams. So I was sitting up like almost every day from I was done until like 2 a.m. And once I fell asleep in the books. So yeah, there's a lot. So you can't just jump from company to company without going through training. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ian Walker. Ian Walker, how is Voss? Voss is Voss. It's a lot of snow here now. So for everyone who loves skiing, are in the perfect conditions right now. And the town is kind of booming. Tourists are not coming, so that department isn't booming. So we hopefully everything is going to open up. But at least the skydiving club is doing really well. John Skinner, thank you so much for the super chat. How does the Swedish loco you're running now compare to the L18? Well, the Norwegian L18 isn't Norwegian, it's actually Swiss. But they are really similar in many ways. Electrical locomotives today basically operates on the same level. There's of course a lot more power in the start phase on the ones we're running now because they're geared towards freight, whilst the L18 is geared more towards passenger trains. But L18 has been used in freight as well, and it really does well for that too. So yeah, I would say the differences between them are really small. Yeah, so no difference, or as just how everything is placed around you that is kind of different. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jerry. Stan Gaming, being from Norway, what Premier League team do you support? What is Premier League? I have no clue what the Premier League is because I'm Norwegian. No, I'm just kidding. What kind of football team I support? I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't support any football teams. Sorry, I'm not a football-y kind of person. Thank you so much for super chat, Nigel. Thank you, double thank you. William comments. How do you multiple hours driving a train? How I do it? Like operating a train for hours? I would say basically it's kind of driving a car. You can drive a car for hours, so we can drive a train for hours. You operate something, and it's kind of the same. But these runs on rail and weighs a lot more. John Skinner, yes. And the side tunnel we just passed to the left. No, I have not walked into that place yet, but that little thing you saw, that side tunnel, it goes into a room. It's basically a safety room for if something happens in the tunnel with a passenger train, you can like group the passengers in there if you break down. But the room is completely bare. There's really nothing in there. SPM 198116. How many hours you work in a day? Well, that is kind of up and down. Some days can be like really long, but if we just keep to what the rule says, our shifts can be as long as 16 hours. Thank you so much for super chat, Glenn Langford, and I am so glad to be able to share this journey with you. Because, to be honest, I think I'm just as stoked as you are of these videos, because I really like recording them and making these videos and see how you guys react and being able to bring something that makes a difference in someone's life. It's just brilliant. Answer. How often do you do streams like this? I used to do them almost every week before, but then I kind of met the wall last year, like last winter. Basically a combination of the state of the world and not being able to be social and the workload and all the uncertainty and stuff like that. It kind of really wore me down. And so I haven't been doing these live streams very often after that because I had to, of course, start to recharge my batteries again. But I'm hoping to do at least now and then. I can't say for sure yet how often it's going to be because starting in a new job, doing something really different and working like crazy hours. It isn't like before where I could leave in the morning, come back afternoon. Now I'm like gone for days. So I have like example, I can go to work on a Sunday, starting work on a Sunday, and I won't be done at work before Wednesday. I won't be back before Wednesday. And so if something happens during that time, it could be like someone calling in sick, or their delays has been so huge that they have to do a turnaround on all the people, then I can end up being away from home over a week. So yeah, it's different. It's more like you go from day to day and you just see what happens. Adam, thank you so much for the super chat, and I am really glad that you like traveling with trains now. Alicia, do you miss driving different automobiles or traveling in different places? I'm not sure what you mean entirely here, but are you thinking about different trains and lines, or are you really talking cars and travel in general? If we're talking about travel in general, yes. It's a lot harder getting around now in the world, so yeah. Haven't been out of the country for over a year, and that's kind of weird. You're right. I am so glad that my videos has been able to help you with your recuperation. I hope you have fought it and that you have won the battle. Have you? Please say yes. EMR production. How do you know when the tail of your train has cleared in the siding? I'm assuming the cars are limited to a certain length to ensure that they all fit, but I've always wondered. Woohoo! Here we are talking some really black magic. No, just kidding. You know that you have a certain length of a train. So let's say that you have a train that is 640 meters long. So some of the locomotives, basically most of them except two, you can plot into the onboard computer how long the train is. So we just double slap on the button on top of the power controller, and it starts to count out the meters of the train or the distance traveled. So when you reach your plotted in distance, it will beep, and then you know you're outside of the siding. So we use that function especially when we go through curves and you have an increased line speed sign, that you could just double slap, and then you know when it beeps that okay, I passed, I can start accelerating now. Like here in the Finse tunnel, since this line stretch line is speed that exceeds 130 kilometers per hour, the train protection here is FATC, so full supervision of the train. That means that it will tell you when you get to increase the speed. So you also plot the distance or the length of the train into the train protection system, the ATC. You just flip the wheel there. So if you have a 640-meter long train, you have to dial in 700 meters. So after 700 meters, the numbers or the speed limit will go from 80 to and back up to 100, which is the maximum speed for this train. Then you can just accelerate from there. Scott Hewitt, is there a rail route you would like to drive across you have not done yet? Yes, there are several. I would really like to do the Northern Line. Would be really awesome. I would really like to do the Ofot line, like really far up north between Kiruna and Narvik. That would be really cool. I also want to do the part from Dombås to Trondheim, and I want to do the part from Hamar to Røros. That would also be really awesome. And of course, the little part of the track that goes from Kongsvinger to Elverum. That will also be cool. Those parts are mostly diesel. So yeah, it will be cool. Clifton 1, do you have constant signal indications in your cab, or do you have to rely on the physical signals? On this part of the line, we have to rely on the physical signals. On every part of the line in Norway, you have to, except for the east line or eastern part of the east line, in just outside Oslo, which is ERTMS or ETCS, where all the signals are in the cab. But yes, every line in Norway where you are running a ATC as a train protection, you have to rely on outside signals. We do get information of the signal aspect or what to expect into the cab in display. But that doesn't mean that you can completely rely on that and just say, yeah, the train can just like do everything by itself. I don't need to like here, take the wheel. Doesn't work like that. That is just additional information on what the aspect is showing, and you yourself have to make sure that you abide by those restrictions. So the system is like, if you do not abide with the restrictions and you go outside the brake curve that is being generated, then that system will stop you, basically take you all the way down to zero. Because they want to stop and it want to stop the train. So that's how it works. Paul McDougall, what kind of wild animals do you see on the Bergen line? Deer, a lot of deer, and foxes and hare, and yeah, fawns, isn't it? I think it's fawns, and ravens and eagles is basically the wildlife, and of course foxes, a lot of foxes as well, and weasels. I've seen weasels as well in some tunnels. Really easy to spot during the winter because they turn completely white in Norway. Yeah, that is the wildlife I usually see, and mooses. Black Sheep, are you driving this train all the way to Bergen or only to Voss? This train goes all the way to Bergen with the shunting in the end to get the train into the freight terminal. Paddock Robert, is it cold while driving? Well, not in my cab, but outside the cab, freakishly cold. Klaus Tovik, tusen takk for superchatten. Tony M, thank you so much for super chat. Klaus Aberdash, aren't those other lines owned by different competitors? That's a lot of training ahead in your bucket list. Well, no, they are not owned by the competitors, but you have to separate the infrastructure or the track, signals, communication systems and stuff like that from the train operators. Because the Norwegian National Rail Administration, they own the infrastructure. So all the tracks in Norway is under them, and a company can apply to have and get slots or schedules on a certain line. That's how it works. If you're talking about like the company SJ, Go Ahead, and V, those are passenger operators who has won the bid to operate passenger trains on those different lines. So the northern line is operated by SJ, the Swedish state rail company, and on the southern line it's Go Ahead who's running, and the Bergen line it's V, and in Oslo it's V. But they are running passenger trains. For freight, you as a company can say that, hey, yeah, we want to apply for a slot between this and that and then and there. So yeah, and then you get a schedule you can run by the National Rail Administration, and then you can start running your train there. Thank you so much for the super chat, Frank. Over again, sir. How did you come to the idea of this nickname? I like cows. Cows are awesome, and I drive trains. Tony M, yes, it's really similar to the UK system because that is what the politicians or previous conservative government opted for. They wanted to use the brilliant system of the UK here in Norway. Yeah, you just heard that right. They wanted to use the brilliant system you guys have in Norway. Frank, are you running these freight trains more in the evening and night? Yes. Most of the freight trains in Norway does run on the evening and night, and the reason for that is when or the time of day where the freight is delivered to the terminals. So it's usually like end of business hours. Then the freight is like transported to the terminal, loaded onto the train, and the train leaves in the evening, arrives during the night, gets unloaded, and all the freight is like ready to be picked up by the recipients then during the morning hours. We do also have some morning trains running for like producers who have some production that is going by night, or that they want the freight by the end of business hours the day after. So yeah, we do have early trains as well. Hi, and Walker. UK rail system heavy sarcasm detected. Yep. John Skinner, do you bring food along with you? Yes, I do have food brought with me when on freight trains, because you never know. I have spent hours on this mountain standing in a tunnel with no reception whatsoever for 8 hours. because of some torn down catenary further ahead. So yeah, you better have some emergency provisions with you because you might be stuck up there for some time. Kevin, and good evening. Sorry I missed the train. Are you learning new forms of traction apart from the tracks? Well, yeah, both tracks, both the F140 and F160, the AC2 and AC3, and also the Eurodual and the Swedish T44, and we'll see what comes next. Tyler Cook, will your videos and live streams be any different now that you have switched roles? Well, it depends. It will be different from what I've done before, because before it wasn't a lot of shunting done. Here, in this situation, there's more shunting. You will see different parts of the lines. Like you get to see the Bergen Freight Terminal, you get to see the freight terminal in Oslo. You get to see other parts of the rail network in Norway. I go there. So yeah, it will be different, but it will still be cab views and everything surrounding that. Chris F, what is shunting? Shunting is when you do some yard work. You turn into what's called a shunting mode when you arrive at the terminal. So that's when you go around with your loco to the other end. You pull the train up to a long track, and then you just slip back into the freight terminal. And we have to do that because you don't have like a catenary over the part of the tracks where they are loading and unloading for obvious reasons. So you have to go around with loco and push the cars into the terminal. Joe Obama, love the tunnels but worry about being trapped? There's no worries of being trapped in a tunnel because all tunnels has 2 exits. At least 2 exits. Rick, is it challenging to move the train to the freight terminal in Bergen? No, it's not like super challenging. You go around with loco, you pull it up to the Kronstad track, and then you slip into the terminal. It's all about stopping at the right place. So yeah, you just adjust your speed so that you make sure that you're able to stop where you're supposed to stop. John Skinner, is driving freight something you have to bid for, and are you still piloting passenger trains? No, that is not something you have to bid for. You have to apply for it, like you apply for a job because it's a different company. And if you go to a different company, you are not driving the trains in your previous company anymore. So the day I stopped working for V, the passenger service or passenger company here in Norway, I didn't have a certificate anymore. So, but I have my like driver's license for train, which is a kind of a EU standard thing. Um, and of course, with experience and everything from the passenger service, that also comes like a bonus when you go and apply for a job in a freight company. But you have to go through the whole training in that freight company you go to. So yeah, it's kind of a shorter training because you already know the ways of operations and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a weird system. It's not like before where one company did like everything in Norway, where when everything was NSB, you could one day during one shift, you could like run the local service in Oslo. Let's say that you operated a train from Oslo to Lillestrøm and then back to Oslo. Then you could do, after that, you could hop onto a freight train and drive that to Dombås on the Dovre line. And then when you got up there, you would have like a 2-hour break or something. Then you would operate the passenger train back to Oslo. And it was highly efficient the way they operated before when everything was one company. But someone wanted to split everything up because then you would have like this core focus and get really good at that certain point in their operation. So if you were a freight operator, you would be like really, really awesome doing that. But in the way, you would also lose some of the efficiency, especially on the operational part, where you could use same resources all over the place. So what they noticed when they split companies in Norway from like NSB and dividing that to a freight division and a passenger division that was like really focused on freight and passenger, then they saw that everything had to be increased with 35%. You needed 35% more staff in that company, and it increased with 35% in that company. And then you also needed 35% more rolling stock, which you didn't have to do before because you could like cross resources on back and forth from passenger to freight and vice versa. And again, that has like become really visible, especially for us working in the business after they split up the whole passenger service aspect. Now that you have like 4 companies running in passenger services in Norway, it's like, yeah, go ahead. They have some, let's say they do have some carriages to spare. Then you have like Vy, they need carriages. So yeah, why can't we borrow? No, you don't pay for the maintenance of those. So you're not allowed to run them by law because you are not certified to run them. You don't have the responsibility for them. So everything has become like this world of law, which is completely insane. So when they say that, yeah, it's going to be more efficient, no, it doesn't get more efficient. It gets worse. Kevin, are you still based in Voss, or is it Bergen now, so you commuting must take longer? It's at least an hour drive from Voss to Bergen, depending on the weather. The trains run out of Bergen, but I'm still based at Voss, so I take the train in on during the morning or like late early afternoon, and then I start working. So it takes about 1.5 hours and 1.5 hours back. thankfully, that's part of my workday. Tell me, how many years is your professional experience? Well, it's 14 years. Naomi, really, really, truly sorry for your loss. And as I mentioned to you before, I really, truly feel you. I really do. Robotrix, happy to see your channel and the growth of a channel. Question, are you a coffee girl? Well, coffee. Who can live without it? I can tell you one thing, I cannot live without coffee. Al Robertson, what is the rail gauge and what does a flashing yellow or a flashing signal mean? In the US, you use 4 feet 85, in which is 1.43 meters. Here we are using the European standard, which is 1435, so 1.43 meters, basically the same as you guys. That is the standard here. They do have different gauge in Finland, in some parts, other parts like Spain as well, is running on a broader gauge. But we're using the standard here, the standard British, which you guys are obviously running too. When it comes to a yellow flashing light and a green flashing light, those are the distance signals, which tells you the aspect to expect in the main signal you are approaching. The distance signal is placed about 800 meters or a minimum 800 meters from the main signal. So if you have one flashing green, that means that you're going to see two green in the main signal, and that means proceed at full speed. If you have a flashing yellow and green, that means that you have to expect that the main signal shows proceed with reduced speed. That also indicates that you're going into a diverted track. If you see only a flashing yellow, that means that that connected main signal is in danger or red, and yeah, you have to start braking. Servant of Milan. That is the best one yet. There's actually a lot of and there's actually just one tunnel on the Bergen line, but it has a lot of holes in the roof, and that is so true. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? Frank, do you have contact with the other Norwegian train drivers who post videos here? Yes, I do have contact with them. And for some strange reason, both of them has been my Padawans. Leandro, your 7-year-old son loves my videos. That is so awesome. Tell him I said hi. It's Venture 999. How many heart attacks have you got in 14 experience? 14-year experience? None. I haven't had any heart attacks yet. Ooh, knock wood for that one. Kate, how often do you see the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis? Well, this year it has. I had a trip over the mountain where it was visible. Sadly, I didn't record it. I was like, no. But the direction it was coming from as well, it wouldn't be possible to record it because I was going in the opposite direction. But yeah, this year has been quite active. So hopefully there will be some more magnificent sun flares, and that would mean more northern lights. And of course, we have to have a clear sky to see it. And now it's been like snowing for 2 weeks. Rinaldo, have you ever had to brake in a tunnel for an animal? No. Animals don't usually go into tunnels unless they're like really scared. But they tend to like move out to the side before tunnels, and they don't usually stand inside the tunnels. But I've seen a lot of foxes and small rodents in the tunnels, but they know how to keep their distance. Oh, Garza, yeah, I remember that, and it's completely insane. Frank, I guess most of the freight is domestic. Well, a lot of freight comes from Sweden and Germany, and yeah, we have trains that goes all the way from Germany to Norway. So yeah, not just domestic, it's international as well. A lot of freight is also international. Well, is someone has been playing chicken in front of my train at least twice. I have almost smashed a car with a car that was stuck on a level crossing. So if you consider those heart attacks, then yes, I have had several. But again, it's something you kind of have to prepare for mentally. So I don't know what to say. They are unpleasant experiences, but they're definitely not kind of like heart attack. I had some on the one where someone played chicken. There were 3 boys. 2 of them were playing chicken with a train, and one was filming, and they were competing on who dared to stand in the track the longest. And when the guy who has been standing longest tried to run out of the track or run out of the way, he stumbled on the track and fell over. But thankfully, his friend was able to drag him out of the track before I hit them. But by that point, I already had applied emergency brakes and there was nothing more I could do. And things like that, it affects you, but it doesn't give you like a heart attack unless you have some like really bad eating habits or yeah, clogged arteries. But yeah. No heart attacks. Thank you, Aya Bhakti. Hey there, Addy comment. My 3-year-old likes your videos, especially tunnels. He wants to know how many tunnels in your route in total. Thank you. On the Bergen line, it's approximately 200 tunnels in total between Oslo and Bergen. Brad Millard, no, I'm really disappointed. There are no trolls in the tunnels. To be honest, between you and me, I think the trolls are controlling the traffic. I think the trolls in reality are the traffic controllers. They're controls. Mr. UK Sergeant, you were surprised when I did a split-second image of myself? Yeah, I was too. Chardaki Double, which language is used in Norway? Norwegian is used in Norway. Andy Durbin, how much power is used on the lines that you run? Are you thinking about the voltage? Because if you are thinking about the voltage, it's about 16 kilovolts, so 16,000 volts. Brad Millard, people seem to think that we can stop a train on a dime. Yeah, a lot of people think that, but they are so wrong. Eric M, hi. Thank you for liking my channel and videos. What are the single and double beeps I hear in the background? The single beep, that is usually when the ATC tells me that I can increase my speed. So that is typical when you come out from a siding or you are running on a line with full ATC or FATC. And the double beeps are when I am running on the line and I just double tap my controller and tells the train to start counting out the length of the train, because that is something I have pre-programmed into the onboard computer. So that is used to know when I can increase the speed. Example is when we go from like 60 to 90 kilometers per hour in a few hundred meters here, That would be a typical place where I can double tap my controller to get like the exact length before I increase the speed. If I'm running an engine that does not have that option, I usually count catenary masts because there is approximately 60 meters between those masts. So then you can just count 60, 120, 180, and then up until you get close to the length of your train, and then you can increase your speed. Monica, what is your least favorite route, like on the railway lines? Well, my least favorite route, This is going to sound really horrible. I hope that no one who lives there takes offense by it. But I would have to say the part on the Bergen line from Vaksdal to Arna. That is probably the part of the line I really don't like. And it's just because of all the in and outs of tunnels. But there are some like really beautiful parts there too when you pass around Romslo just after Trengereid. That's a really beautiful part, because you get to see the whole part of the fjord and the bridge. Yeah, but except for that, it's basically in and out, in and out, in and out, and that is, it's daunting. Ken Chapel, how many hours are you allowed to drive the train per day? Don't look at it like per day, but like within a shift, you can drive a train for a total of 5.5 hours. Then you're gonna need a break of at least 40 minutes off the engine in approved room or like place facility, and then you can run the train for another 4.5 hours typical, because your day cannot be longer than 10 hours or have more than 10 hours of driving. If you are supposed to go longer than that, then you can stretch it to 16 hours, but then you have to have a split day, but your day cannot contain more than 10 hours of driving anyway. I hope that made sense. Holy cow, Troy boys, thank you so much for the super chat. And yes, I see that like 732 people are viewing now. That is insane. Reset. Can you be caught for speeding? Yes, you can be caught for speeding, because like aircrafts, we do have a black box on the train, and they do take out every now and then small tests, or like, yeah, we want to watch something might have happened here, we got a complaint, we need to look at the data. And so there they can basically see everything. They can see how much brake you applied, they can see how much torque you applied, they can see if you had flipped this switch and when you did it. And so everything you do is recorded. Getty, can you listen to music while you drive, and are you alone in a cabin? Yes, I am alone, and we are allowed to listen to music as long as the audio doesn't surpass the ability to hear warning signals. Dusty, awesome. Greg Stillman, do you have periodical tests of your proficiency like airplane pilots do? Yes, we do. We have it every year. Alfina, do you get scared? No, I don't get scared. If I was in a situation as a train operator and I got scared, then I would say that this job would be for me. That is something you are tested of for before you are able to apply for the Railway Academy. They do a check on you, like a mental check, to see if this is a job where you will thrive or which you will freak out in. Jacqueline, why are you giving signal? I'm sounding the horn because of the diamond-shaped sign that has a bar in it, horizontal bar, that tells me that there's a level crossing there. You might not see the level crossing because those signals are usually used on level crossings that are for pedestrians that are not secure with either light or sound. They're also placed on automated level crossings where you have both gates and sound, but you have low visual line of sight, or you just have a half gate system. So that's where you have to sound the horn. Tony M, you know it. Alfina, that's awesome. What company are you working for? Steerations, yeah, I totally agree. Doesn't sound like a donkey and doesn't sound like someone who's like really angry. Steven, what are the broken diagonal signals for? Well, they are not broken. You mean those that are slanted, like pointing downwards or upwards, and has a number on it that says like 21 or 25, or at some line like the flum line it says 55. That is the gradient. When it's pointing up and it says 25 or 18 is the gradient, so it means that it's 1.8% gradient, but we use per mil, so 1 of 1,000, so it's like alcohol, so it's like 18 per mil. And if it's pointing downward, it means that you're going to a downward slope, which is 1.8% or 18 per mil, and that is really useful information because that might mean that you're not allowed to run at the technical line speed of the line. Like for passenger trains, you have to reduce speed if you are running down slope, and the same with freight trains. You cannot run like 130 kilometers per hour if you have a gradient of 10. So yeah, those means a lot to us because that depends on how much brake you have, and you have to like keep you within the speed limits of your train. Hey there for 9-8. John Skinner. Do you stay at your destination or do you deadhead back on long runs? Do freight trains have deadheading accommodations? You can say that I spend a lot of time in hotels between some of the trains. Some other shifts are like hyper effective. Like I can go from Bergen to Ål and then just have an hour and then head back to Bergen. And when I get back to Bergen, it's like then I go into a hotel because it will be only 8 hours before I head out again. So I get to sleep, go back to Ål, and then I stay over, and then I do like super effective, and I basically clock the hours for the week. Mr. Wang, what does the flashing yellow signal marked with a circle R mean? Circle R just tells you, and it's not flashing yellow, it's flashing white. That is an avalanche signal. That means that that there hasn't been an avalanche. If that signal starts to flash 2 yellows, then you should start reducing speed and be able to stop in front of avalanche marker. Those R's can also be connected. The R means that it's avalanche system, and those systems can also be connected to the main signals at stations. So if, example, Vaksdal, there you have an avalanche system connected to the main signal, so if there has been an avalanche, it will never turn green. So you can use them like here and there. Alan Music Man, earlier you were talking about your least favorite drive. It seems to me like the line between Hønefoss and Ål is the most featureless part of the line. Do you not find that part a bit hard work? Well, no, not really. It might be featureless, except for the cool water tower and stuff like that. But it's a very technical part of the line. So if you don't stay on edge, you can lose a lot of time on that part. So that is a part where you do not get to kind of look out and watch the scenery and things like that. You like really have to be on edge all the time to be sure that you are able to keep your momentum and that you do not roll too much because you might lose a lot of speed, because a lot of the gradients there are not marked because they are less than 5. So yeah, it's basically a very technical line. You have to know the line really well to drive efficient, so you will always be on edge. Origin 1974. Are you afraid of this train line? No, I'm not afraid of this train line. If I was afraid of this line, then this wouldn't be the job for me. Dimitri, is any stone falling possible on your route? Yes, it is possible, and that's why we have avalanche detection systems in place. There are several points on this line, especially the part where we run alongside the 16, the main road between Oslo and Bergen. We see it between Voss and Bergen. That's where we run along it. There are several places there that they have geologs out scouting, and a lot of GPS systems that detects movements and stuff like that, because the exterior of the mountains as well as the road tunnels are there's a lot of rock slides in that area. The E16 is probably one of the most avalanche prone roads in Norway, and there every year there's a lot of avalanche going there, so they're now planning to make a new road, move everything into a tunnel instead because that is safer, and the same with the railway. So at some point in the future everything will be in tunnel, basically from Voss and to Bergen, except for some holes here and there. It's ridiculous, and yeah, it's safer, yeah, but it won't be anything more to see because everything will be inside a tunnel. John Skinner, you're a flight attendant? Cool. Yeah, one has to really like hotels, and if hotels is something you dislike, then this kind of job, working crazy hours, being away from home and stuff like that, that is not for you. John Skinner, no, I didn't have to move for the new job. I was based at Voss when I worked for the other train company as well. So thankfully, I was able to keep my base here. So yeah, I'm a happy camper. Will Wren, which is better, passenger train cabs or freight train cabs? Well, they are almost the same. There's a bit more noise in some of the freight cabs on the more older locomotives, but no, I would say they are basically the same. The difference is that on a flirt, for example, the EMU that we run in B, it's really far from the dash to the front, so it feels like you are just sitting in a tube watching out. You don't see much of the scenery, whilst in the freight train you have a lot more field of view, so that I like a lot more. William Swenson, is there a mandatory retirement age for train engineers? Well, no, not really, not anymore. It used to be, but now they want you to work longer for your pension, so yeah, you can sit in a cab until you keel over. Well, as long as your health allows you to do it. Because after a certain age, you have to do a health test each year. Brad Lloyd, is this job as peaceful as it looks? Well, when you have left the freight terminal, then everything is kind of peaceful. It's complete zen all the way, but it can sometimes be quite stressful during shunting and the brake testing and everything in the terminal. Time is limited, and sometimes there are some things that happens or something has happened with the train, basically a shift. It could be that it has been out exposed to wind and shifting temperatures, and some brake has like frozen over the night, and identifying that, being able to solve that and stuff like that. It eats time. So with all the trains that are running out of Bergen at the moment, if you lose your slot out of Bergen, then you're like really screwed, because then you get a new slot which is 1.5 hours later, and then the freight will be late to Oslo, and then everything will, yeah, you can see the ramification. If we are late, then the truckers who are waiting for their freight, they get late, and then delivery is late, and yeah, and then customers in the end will be angry. It's Ventura 999. Yes, I think we save about 11,000 trucks each year on the Bergen line. So I hope for more freight trains. I hope for longer freight trains, so we can reduce the amount of trucks needed between Oslo and Bergen because of the road conditions. And that would make it safer. Joe Obama, on many of your videos I see a wire right above the train. Is that for the train or just easy for other repair? That is our power source. That is where we draw our power from. All the trains we are running here are electric. Kevin, are the passing loops not long enough for trains to pass in places as the passing trains are slowing to stop? No, it's not that. The passing loops are definitely long enough, because when we stop, if the loop hadn't been long enough, then there couldn't be a passing train, right? The reason that we drive into a siding and we stop before another train can go through the station is because of safety. It does has something to do with the distance from the main signal, the main exit signal, and to the point where you get in conflict with the neighboring track. So you have a 90-second lock on the station before the dispatcher or traffic controller is able to set a signal through the station for the other train. And this is all about safety. But at some stations, like in the Finse tunnel, the one called Fagnut, as well as Tunga, and at Hol, those are stations where you can pull trains through in the opposite directions at the same time, so you can have two arriving trains at the station. That also means that the speeds are reduced. So when we arrive stations like that, we are forced down to 40 kilometers per hour. And then when both are on the inside of the station and not in conflict with the neighboring track, we get green in each direction. So yeah, it is possible, but that is basically down to how the system is designed. But that's so. No, it's not late for you. When I applied for Academy, we had one who was 56 in our class. So it's not late. I've also heard that some students at the Rail Academy have been like 62. So they just had like 5 years left of their career before they retire, but they are still driving trains. Alan Music Man, are the changes at Arna and Bergen mostly done now? They must have spent a fortune on all those changes and especially on the new tunnel. I assume they expect it to be paid for by increasing traffic? Well, yes. They are not done. They're still working on it. They have built a new tunnel. Hooray. Now they are rehabilitating the old tunnel, so they are digging a deeper pit to lay the track in, so they have a better, like, a foundation for that. Then they need to make space for this fans that is supposed to be able to blow out smoke or diesel smoke and stuff like that. And I think that is supposed to be done in 2024. And when we come to 2024, then the whole station will be basically new and other tunnel will be in service, and also the freight terminal in Bergen. So they've started working on that as well, to have longer tracks, more terminal tracks, so they can receive and send more freight trains. So Bergen is going to be like a hyper effective and sprawling railway system in the near future, so hopefully more trains. Alia, what was your inspiration to become a train driver? Well, I always kind of wanted to do this, so I did it. William Swenson, what do you prefer about freight service versus passenger service? Don't need to stop, and I'm all alone. So, and yes, it's more relaxing. It's you go to work and it's basically more relaxing. It's less stress. Don't have to drive like at the maximum all the time, and you get to kind of like get into a better flow. And John Skinner, some of the stops are like really weird to pass, like Voss. It's in a place that I've always stopped, and the same with Arna. Yeah, it's kind of weird, like blasting past some of those stations. Joe Obama, do you have a maximum number of cars allowed or total length? Yes, the total maximum length on a train in Norway is 850 meters. But then again, 850 meters, if you run something like that on the Bergen line, wouldn't be very many places you would be able to meet other trains. So that is basically a no-go. And 640 meters is also kind of challenging on the Bergen line, but that is something we do. Kunal Meta, do you miss your previous company and the faster trains? Well, this is different, and I applied for this job for a reason. So, V is a great company. It is. But at this time of life and at this place I'm at now, I needed a change. And this is the change I needed. Naomi Garza, do you haul product for 7-Eleven? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't get to see the list of where the freight is going or who they're going to. I just see kind of a number. So yeah, probably. I know that there's a lot of soda and stuff like that on our trains, and I guess that some of that would be going to like 7-Eleven. Fifth goal, hello. Can I ask you why you switched from freight to freight trains? I hope you're doing fine. Yes, I'm doing really fine. I needed a change, really. Been like running passenger trains for 14 years, and I just needed a change. Laura, does freight trains only travel at night or do day trips too? We do have day trips too. Did one yesterday, and I recorded it, so it will come. And the latest video I uploaded, not this one, but the one last time, I think it was December 17th. No, not December 17th, but sometime in January. That is also kind of a daytime video. But it started off like it was January, and Norway is like really dark in January, so so I was driving into a setting sun, or like going it was evening, like started at 2 almost 3 p.m. and by the time I was in Oslo it was 7 p.m. So yeah, and then it was dark. Lars Gunnar, is a green cargo that holds containers for Bring and Posten while waiting for a new guitar amplifier? Both CargoNet and Green Cargo are hauling freight for, or containers for Posten and for Bring. So yeah, this is like really weird. Maybe your guitar amplifier was on my train. Fifth goal, what kind of locals are you operating nowadays on freight trains? We in this company are running the Eurodual. We are also running the Swedish RC, the Swedish T44, and our Bombardier Trax F140 AC2, and also the F160 AC3. Alet Pathak, are you a train driver? No, I am a Formula 1 driver and this is just a hobby. Joe Obama, how tall I am and if I bump my head? What do you mean? Where am I supposed to bump my head? Frank, yes, this is the tunnel to Bulkin. Dinar73, do you look at these switches when you're driving? It seems always focused on them when waiting. Focused on them while waiting? I'm not focused on the switch in like that sense, but focused on the signal. Not focused on the switch because the switches are remotely controlled and they give you the path. Lars Gunnar, are you changing your name to Rail Schumacher now? Oh, well. Oh my god. Or Rail Hakkinen? Oh, this one would be really great. Rail Alonso. Oh yeah. Yes, we do have something called driver awareness system. I have to lift my foot off a pedal every 30 seconds. If I don't do that, the system will start making a sound, and if I don't comply it within 3 seconds after that, then the emergency brake will be applied, poof, and the train stops. Track 87, I am the troll. Bradley Tucker, do you go to Norway football games? No, I don't. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sean. Brian Wong, does Jedi Handwave open doors work on freight locomotives? No, the Jedi Handwaves doesn't open doors on freight locomotives. I don't think these doors are supposed to be opened like that. But there's a lot of doors that are open with the Jedi Handwave. Thank you, Talia. Jasmine, is there a situation in which an emergency stop application could be the cause of a derailment? Well, if you derail, then I can promise you that something will happen. If the train is torn apart, then you will definitely have an emergency brake, because then the main brake pipe will also be torn apart. But when it comes to like a derailment and emergency brake application, that would most likely be the engineer or driver or operator who applied the brake, because everything is linked. And if just one axle derails, it might take some time before you actually notice it, especially if it's like far back in the train. But you will definitely notice it if you have a derailment, because there will be a lot more resistance. You will lose a lot more speed. John Skinner, have you ever had a car come uncoupled in transit? No. Thank God, no. uh, Cars getting uncoupled in transit would be like really, really bad. But thankfully, the system is designed so if something like that did happen, like if you had a broken hook or broken chain or something like that, then the brakes would apply on the whole train, because you would tear the main brake pipe between those cars from each other, and then the brakes apply. And that would be a clear indication that there's something seriously wrong with the train and you will have to stop. Well, yeah, you're forced to stop. And yeah, so we have systems that are made to prevent that. And also that comes also to how our train is composed. So each part of the train, no matter how it could split if something like that happened, each part would have enough brakes to stop itself no matter the gradient on the track, so on the line. So you would never load train more than its capabilities to stop itself in any gradient on the line you are running on. So gears, on such a heavy train, how do you keep the brakes from overheating while going downhill? That, sir, is a really good question, because there are so many forests that has been lit in blaze because of situations like that. This is basically a problem during summer, obviously, when you have a lot of heat, you use frictions and add more heat, and the wheels get warm and the brake pads get warm, etc., etc. And you can basically melt metal. To prevent something like that, especially during the dry season, to run really heavily on the dynamic braking, like on the engine, like on the electrodynamic braking. We can run more extensively on that within certain limits. Of course, we have to think about lateral forces in the train as well. But we like brake on, like apply heavy braking, and then after that you just release them, reduce your speed to a point where you can start rolling back up, but so for so long as well, so that you also give the brakes a chance to cool down before you apply brakes again. So during the summer, at these points of the line, we also have a lot of slack in our schedule, so we are actually able to run at lower speeds as well. which gives us the option to like brake car down, maybe down to like 40 kilometers per hour, and then just roll slowly back up and have enough time to cool down the brakes. So yeah, that's basically how we do it. Håkon Halfheim, will you drive other lines than the Bergen line? And is it fun to be working in the same company with your old teacher Gunnestad? He's my teacher now. That is awesome. I love him. I truly love him. And yes, it is really cool. And if I get to drive on other lines, yes, I do. I was running to Langemyr in Kristiansand here not long ago. A very nice diversion from every day. And when the whole given situation in the current world and etc 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 is getting close to over, then there will be possibilities to run more on other lines as well. And you have to tell Øyvind hello from me. Applesauce. So I figured out that some train stations are painted red because the owner of the rail also owned an iron ore mine, but why are some of them yellow? This is kind of funny because the red and yellow has something to do with the cost of the current paint, the color at the time the stations were painted. And that's why all farms in Norway are red, because it was used to be like really cheap paint, and white was like really expensive. So that was why the farmer's house was typically painted white, because that was where he lived, etc. So yeah, it was cheap paint at the time, and it got painted in yellow because of that. Kopadasso, the Arendal line. There are no freight trains running on the Arendal line. It's just a Class 69 operated by Go Ahead that runs on the Arendal line. Alan Smith, thank you so much for the super chat. Same to you, Brad Millard. Thank you so much for the super chat. Tomcat, thank you so much for the super chat. Drake Horvis, do you want to, in the future, to run the fastest train in the world? Yes, that would be completely awesome to do. Paul Carbet, I'm so glad I'm able to provide something good to you through my videos. If you want me to do more of the walks, I will definitely do it. Talia, no, sadly. Because of insurance and stuff like that, we're not allowed to have anyone else in the cab. Company policy. Quickly, Raymond, send us an email. Just send me an email. David, thank you so much for the super chat. Steve Blanco, that is definitely coming. I will be making more of that this summer. Maybe actually, I think it might be some skydiving videos popping up even before the summer. Thank you so much, Alan Smith, for support of the channel. And yes, it's super great to be back as well. I missed you guys. Mr. UK Sergeant, are you able to stand and stretch out, or does the pedal keep you seated at all time? We can get out of the seat because we also have the CIFA thingy on our controller, and we also have it on our left and right side. So if I need to get out of the driver's seat, I can definitely do that. I can just flip the seat back, and at some point I have definitely been standing operating the train, basically because I've been sitting for hours. So yeah, we had that option. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sean. Talia, you think if I read J.R.R. Tolkien, I would be popular? Thank you so much for super chat, Ken. David, I have a 360 bike ride from Flom over the old road down to Lærdal and through the tunnel as well. And I also have one going through Gudvangen, the Valley of the Gods. So that is definitely something I'm going to do. Rick, yeah, the freight train horn does sound a lot louder and clearer than on the passenger train because they're like mounted right over our heads. Sandy D, then I will have a longer trip around the area for you to see. Barry, you're listening on this with your headphones on and it feels like you're in the cab, then this has been a perfect recording because that was exactly how it was supposed to be. Touch by, do you need to close the line when work is done on the overhead electric? In the UK, we turn off sections. No, we don't close the line when they work on the electric. It depends, of course, on the work they're doing. We are also able to shut down sections of it. So you can shut the power down on the sections between the power sources, and you can also shut down the sections that is at the station, and that happens like all the time when they do work on stations between trains. Yes, brother Dave, are there specific times you have to honk your horn? Yes, there is. Look for diamond-shaped signs with vertical bars, with horizontal bars, and both of them. Those are clear indicators on where I need to sound the horn, except for the ones that are vertical, because that is for passenger trains. Thank you so much for the super chat, Nicholas. Hello, Rick Sanchez. Rick Sanchez, how is C-137 doing? Or Servant of Milan, and of course not forget the night rule. That is so true. Diane, you're wondering if I'm the one who is driving the train? Yes, I did operate this train when I was recording this video. Chris F, is there any drawbacks with driving freight trains? I would say not drawbacks, but they're like differences. I would say that the work hours, you work a lot more night than daytime, but then again, that is something that suits me better. feel I feel more like that I work less when I work with the shift I have now compared to what I did when I was driving passenger trains. So, but since I also, in the way I work, clock more hours in a more compressed, time, I kind of have. I feel like I have more time off than before. I don't know if that made any sense, but that is basically how it feels. Hello there, Daniel Berger. And what lines are you running in Switzerland? If I'm not mistaken, you guys are still running both freight and passenger trains. It depends where you need it. Frank, How much time is there between your shifts? Okay, this one is not complicated. Since the whole thing here is that since I am based at Voss, that is my home base. That means that when I go to another base like All, so I travel from Voss to Bergen, drive the train from Bergen to All, and then I just swap back to Bergen. And since I'm in Bergen, that is like what we call an outside base. Then it's just you can pull it down to 8 hours between the shifts before I get back to work, and that's basically how I do work. So I travel away from my home base, and then I just work like with 8 hours between 8 to 10. It's kind of different from time to time, but between 8 to 10 hours before I go back to work. And I really like working like that. It's compressed, it's effective, and as long as you get the sleep you need, everything is okay. And you just have to make sure you get enough sleep. Johan, you are wondering if the points are heated by gas or by electricity. Well, since the electricity is like abundant, abundant from the catenary and surrounding areas where there are stations, they are heated by electricity. Ah, Daniel Berger, I understand. So then, if you are a gamer, then I guess Railroute would be a game that you would be playing. Mr. UK Sergeant, that is also a solution, but it comes to a point where you're not operating at an efficient level anymore. Spyfly61, would it be possible to get the actual speed shown in the video, maybe from a GPS or something? Let me tell you a story. When it comes to GPS and getting the true speed of the train, that would be, I know it's something that everyone wants. It would be like really great, but it's also a really stupid idea to do. Because how the GPS things work, it kind of points your speed between two update points. So when you are going into a tunnel, you don't have contact with the GPS anymore. And when you get on the outside, it will just calculate the speed or the time you used between the last update and the one you're at. So that can produce some false information that will make it look like you are speeding. And there was another train driver I know that did that, and it looked like he was speeding, and someone reported him because it was shown in his video. And dude, you do not want to be in that situation. It's not good. It makes it look like you're reckless. It makes it like you're not following the rules. It is negative press for the company you're working for. So no, sadly I won't be posting any true speed information, and I highly recommend that anyone else doing cab videos like this do not post GPS speed, because it could show that you're overspeeding. Shinar73, do you get tired of tunnels? It's really flat here in Oklahoma, no tunnels. Yep, Oklahoma is pretty flat. No, I kind of not. I don't get tired of tunnels. The ones that can be like, some of them can be like really hypnotic, especially if you're going around like 80 kilometers per hour. It like, you look into the tunnel, it's in the middle of the night. You've just been seeing nothing but darkness. You're in the tunnels, like, is this never going to end? And it looks like it's going on forever. But tunnels I find more hypnotic than these ones that are carved in bare rocks, are like the last tunnel we're going to go through. Those who are bored with or done with a TBM, tunnel boring machines, since they have like this smooth walls and everything. And you just look out and it doesn't look like you're moving. It's like really weird. Tigerhawk, are you going to come to the States and drive for Amtrak? No, sadly I won't, because that would mean I would be have to be retrained, and I work my way up from a conductor and etc, etc. So nah, I don't think I'm gonna do that, but it would be really cool trying to drive an Am car, especially the Sela Express. Rick, that is one of my favorite parts as well, because it's like truly beautiful, especially when you come out to see Osterøy in the late autumn or fall. It can be so beautiful with the crisp air and the colors on the mountains, and you see like the difference, the texture in the rock along the island. It's like it's insane. Larissa Packer, does Norway have ghost trains like the Holding Light? I haven't heard anything about ghost trains, but it might be possible that there are some of them, but I don't think so. Simon the railway enthusiast, the high-speed 2 is being built with tunnel boring machines. What is the longest tunnel in Norway? Right now, Romeriksporten or the Romerike tunnel between Oslo and Lillestrøm is the longest tunnel in Norway at the moment. But when the new tunnel between Oslo and Ski is open, that will be the longest tunnel. And that, I think that tunnel also is twice as long as the longest tunnel we have today. Laura Andrea, if I miss doing the route between Myrdal and Flom, well, yeah, the Flom line it's a special thing. It's like really weird. It's like slow and it's steep, and when I'm there, I kind of get bored of it like really fast. But when I'm away, I just want to do it again. It's like really weird. So yes, that is something which I'm going to miss doing. Uh, but then again, when weighing up everything with all the positive of the things I'm doing now, I'm, um, I'm, yeah, I would say I would put the flom line on the table of sacrifice. So yeah, it's worth it. But that said, I have several videos of the flom line during the summer, during fall, and during the winter that I haven't edited yet. So I will do that in the future as well. So it won't be just freight trains I'm doing. I will also edit the previous videos I recorded and publish them as well. John, Jonathan J, yes, I would agree on that. That is one of the most beautiful places because of the location and everything. And when you come the other way as well here at Trengereid, during certain times of the year, it's beautiful. It's like really beautiful. Tom Z, thank you. And yes, I did have a slightly different channel name before. And I got so fed up with the questions that followed with it and that someone found it offensive that I thought, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I switched over and I thought that was more correct to do as well because it would take the focus away from that single part that kind of drowned everything. So yeah. Daniel Berger, in this one it is the Bombardier Trax F140 AC2. Almabik, have you asked a question that I have not answered? Did you tag me in that question? Because that would make it heaps easier for me to see if you have asked a question and you tagged me, because then it will pop up red for me and it will be more visible. Drake Birkner, no. Like I said earlier, I'm not able to like stream live while at work. That would be completely reckless. And that is because of safety. Crankshaft, this is a freight train. Adamar, do you perform any checks like, for example, a brake check before starting your trip, or is this performed by the technician staff? We do the brake testing. So we have the brake testing when the train is assembled and ready. We also, the yard worker also checks everything with the train when it comes to the status of the cargo we are transporting. So to see that everything there is locked up, tightened, and stuff like that. So we do the brake test, and after we leave the terminal and the first station, we do another test before the first station. So a typical place where I do my live brake test, the first one at speed, would be when we're coming over the top in the tunnel from Bergen down to Arna. That is a place where I usually do the test of the brakes after we left the station. But of course, we also do the basic brake test at the terminal, and then you calculate your brake percentage, and then you do the test brake when you leave the terminal to see if that is the same value as the one you calculated. If it is, then everything is all good. If not, you have to adjust down, or you can adjust up, and depending on, of course, what you calculated. You can never go up above what you calculated, but you can definitely go down. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do your freight train run on regular schedule? What do you mean about regular schedule? Yes, if you're thinking of if we run at the same time every day, the answer is yes. The Norwegian train spotter, are you going to drive some ED soon? Yes, I am. I even have a video of it, but I haven't edited it yet. Gabriel, isn't it scary to drive on a single track? No, why would it be scary? Are you thinking about being worried that you might meet a train out there? Because then the answer would be no, it wouldn't be possible for two trains to meet because of the safety systems. Blue sky events. As you are on your own going into some very wild conditions, how often at night? What happens if you break down or have an incident? Some of these locations seems very remote. Yes, they are remote, and I can tell you that there can be hours of waiting before you get help. No, never afraid of that. And yes, we might break down. It could happen, not often, but it does sometime. But then again, it's not like that long between trains, and when you're running at night, you have a lot more freight trains, which also mean more powerful units that can come and assist you if something happens. That gives us the opportunity, if my train is able to move, then you can get a push into the next station and stuff like that. So it's basically so that you can be ordered to help another company out if they have problems. But yeah, thankfully we don't break down that often. Farm Guy 3, do you carry multiple loco certification at once, or are you restricted to one loco model type at a time? I carry multiple. During a shift, we can be operating several locomotives. Alistair, do you know what cargo you're hauling, or is it a secret, and does what you are carrying affect your trip? Yes, of course it would affect the trip. It depends on the weight. and it also depends on what you're carrying. We don't get to know what the contents is unless it's like type explosives, chemicals, and anything that is under the ADR or like the international ISO or the UN markings. If we have anything of that on board the train, we definitely know where in the train it is and the amount it is. So if something would happen, we would have the information we need to tell the rescue services that and fire department that you need this and this and this because we are carrying that and that. Forest, wondering if your train cabin is well heated and comfortable. Yes, it is well heated and comfortable. It would be totally reckless by any company providing any traction unit that does not have sufficient heating or air conditioning. Jason Porter, thank you for that. I will make a design. Dogears, do you know why a Class 5 type carriage was added to the V passenger trains that have Class 7 carriages? It's located next to the cafe car. Dogears, it's not a Class 5. It is a old German IC7, which was rebuilt and added to V's trains on the Bergen line. And this is the cabin system, so you can like rent a whole cab in that, which I think it's like 8 seats or something, and 6 beds. I think it was 6 beds. It's a product they have added to the trains to try and make it more pleasing for certain customers, and it also has a better freight compartment, so you can have more skis, bicycles, and stuff like that as well. Frank, where is the control center located, or are there several of them on the line? I cannot disclose where the control center is located, but there are 3 regions in Norway. You have East, you have North, and you have Southwest. South and West, which is located at the same place, but will not disclose where they are. David, do you have to let the passenger trains pass? No, Not always. Sometimes it might happen because if you are on a section of track where you will be running slower, they will be running faster, and by the end of that section, they would have passed you anyway. They might do that. But not long ago, I had a passenger train which was supposed to be in front of me, but they were behind me because they were delayed. But sadly, that is how the rule is. You don't delay a train that is on schedule. So the passenger train had to run behind me. Adamar, the entry to the freight terminal in Bergen seems to require a bit of maneuvering. Are there any plans to make it easier? Thank you. Make it easier? Well, leaving the terminal is going to be easier in the future because you will be able to leave directly from the terminal track. But coming to the terminal, we will still have to go around with a loco, pull it out on the Kronstad track, or track 84, and then slip back into the terminal. And the reason for this is that there isn't catenary or overhead wire above the tracks in the loading area, and that is for obvious reasons. A forklift lifting the containers off the train and a live wire or a wire overhead, not a good combination. So yes, because of that, we will still be needing to like slip into the terminal. And I can repeat this as well, why the speeds of freight trains are slower than passenger trains. Passenger trains has a different type of brakes. They do have higher efficiency brakes because they are basically running at higher speeds. So here they have, let's say, they have sacrificed length of the train for speed. And since freight trains are longer and heavier, that means that it takes longer time to apply the brakes because of the length of the main brake pipe. The longer the brake pipe, the larger the volume of air is needed to get out of the system. And then of course it takes longer time from the brake application until every carriage or car in the train has reacted to that brake application. So always when you apply the brakes, the air will leave out of the loco where you have your handle where you apply the brake. Of course, you have some help along the way in the carriages as well, but the main part will be leaving out of the main system. And that means that you have the loco which will apply the brake first, then car number 1, then number 2, then number 3. And you have to make sure that the brakes on car number 1 hasn't applied 100% before you have some application on the last car, because this has to do with the lateral forces to kind of stabilize the mass. If you had car number 1 reaching 100% of its braking power before the last car in the train even has reacted, then you will have some massive lateral forces moving through your train, and that could cause a derailment. And that's why they have lower speeds and stuff like that to accommodate, so you don't have like shall I say, to kind of like flatten out the energy going through the train. So that is basically why freight trains are running slower, mass time it takes to apply the brakes, etc. The lowest for the longest, I have been running freight trains, which has had a mass of or a weight of 1400, almost 1500 tons. And that is crazy. That is like really crazy. So applying the brakes there is like, yeah, apply the brakes, and now we're waiting. It can go as much as like 20 seconds before you feel that, yeah, now it's like really starting to brake. So it's like, yeah, it's really different, and you can really feel and you get a lot of respect for that mass you are moving. Sao, are Kristiansand controlling Stavanger too? Or now, or is it the other way around? I can tell you that there is no control central anymore in Kristiansand or Stavanger. John Skinner, do you have a conductor with you on board? No, I don't. I'm completely alone on this train. Gabriel, what types of safety system do Norwegian train use? We use ATC, mainly ATC, and we are now slowly adapting to ERTMS or ETCS on all lines. So we'll see how that's gonna work out. Brad Miller, yes, that is gonna be offered again. Big Sky. In Norway, the longest trains we have are 850 meters, and our trains are like, it's nothing compared to what you guys are running in the States, because those trains are completely insane. Cool. Do you have Wi-Fi everywhere? No, we don't. Not in the tunnels. And so in total, it's coverage on like 50% of the Bergen line. Hey there, Peter. And the Durban, if you like that, I think you're gonna like the next video I'm working on right now. Mr. UK Sergeant, yeah, that is so true. Sasha, when you come to two tracks, how do you know which one to go on? We have a schedule, and in the schedule it tells you what track you're gonna be running on, and all the switches and points and whatever people calls it are controlled by a control central or a station master, so they can do changes, but then you just see that on the color of the signal and the aspects you get. So sometimes they can take you through track number 1, and other times they can pull you through track number 2 if something is waiting in track number 1. All that depends on what the traffic controller wants and how they administer the trains on the line. Yeah, I'm still going. John Skinner, the Amtrak auto train between DC and Florida is 3/4 of a mile long and is said to be one of the longest in the country. You know, I was in Florida at I think it was like in 2018, and I saw that auto train. And yes, it was long. It was crazy long, and I actually have a video of it. So it was kind of cool. Does the red yellow headlight aspect mean? I'm not entirely sure. Red and yellow? We don't see red and yellow at the same time. Thank you, Voss. Laura Andrea, is it true that there will be a line between Sandvika and Hønefoss? You know, that line was supposed to open in the 80s. It has been planned for generations. But you know how it is with politicians. They say and they want and they never do. That's basically with everything about infrastructure. Is like, no, we're gonna make this, we're gonna do that, and it's gonna be so great. And then it's a switch of power and it never happens. But it is planned to be a new line between Sandvika and Hønefoss at some point in the future. It is supposed to happen, but a short time in railway sense means 50 years. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Lancashire lad, if you lose traction power in a tunnel, how do you contact control? That is through our communication system, the GSMR system. If we lose traction or something like that, we just contact the control center. Mr. UK Sergeant, of course I'm returning to the States. Thank you so much for super chat, David. And yes, it's really good to be back. Steve Richards, yes, this is the new sexy tunnel. Daniel Berger, do you watch videos of other locomotive drivers, since there are quite a few channels out there on YouTube? Yes, I do. And strangely enough, a lot of them from Switzerland. Tigerhawk, so am I, so am I. Applesauce, did you hear about the train heist in LA? It was quite afraid. You mean all the packages that was stolen over time during the pandemic? It was crazy. It's been all over the news. I mean, like, how could that happen? Is there no one there guarding the train, or yeah, how does that happen? Obi-Wan Kenobi, what are the lights of the avalanche signals on the video? They look slightly yellowish. They look yellowish because they are old, but they are supposed to blink white. White means clear line, and if there is an avalanche, or if an avalanche is detected, then you will have two flashing yellows, which means that you have to start braking to be able to stop in front of the avalanche indicator. Tigerhawk, that is the whole point. It's to give you guys the chance to fall asleep to white noise. Johan, when will the old new Ulriken tunnel be completed? Yes, it is in 2024. Jason Porter, that is amazing. Just like in the old times in the Wild Wild West. DJ Chase UK? Yes. It's one of them, or she. I'm not sure if it's a he or she. Frank, you have always wondered about the lateral forces of these super long trains in a bend of a trail. Yeah, you can say that. In the super long trains, I can believe that the forces on the curves are insane, especially if you go through S-bends. William Swenson? Yeah, I hope so too. This has been super great. Naomi, will the Finse tunnel ever be refurbished in the future? At some point, I guess that tunnel will have to be refurbished. But then it would be to change out the ballast because it has been crushed, or the foundation needs to be changed, or we could have a situation where the rock composition is changing, or the stability of the rock, because of the changes in the climate around the mountain. That could happen as well. So yeah, at some point in the future they will have to refurbish the tunnel. Norwegian train spotter, what is the longest train you have ever driven? 635 meters is the longest train. Louise Washington, will we ever be able to ever get to see my face? If you watch season 3 of Europe from Above on National Geographic, episode 1, that's a pro tip. Just yeah. Schwarzenegger, do you get tunnel vision from this? No, I do not get tunnel vision from this. John Waters, I've seen it. It's completely crazy and I'm so humbled. Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Claudia or Carly, are you with automatic pilot or are you deciding speed or not? There is no automation on this train. We do have some locos that actually has cruise control. That is the closest thing you can get to automation on Norwegian trains. It is cruise control. Besides that, everything is manual. So we decide the speed. We are basically operating the whole train. John Skinner. Funny you should mention that because, yes, the entry on several tunnels has been almost like halfway completely sealed. I do have a video called Extreme Winter Conditions on the Mountain Pass Remastered. If you fast forward there to the place called Ustaåsa, you will see where I enter a tunnel where half of the tunnel opening is covered in snow, and it is like, yeah, you go through. That's what you do. If you see a huge drift, you go through, because if you stop, then you're stuck. So you have the positive thing of running trains is that you're heavy, you have the speed, so you just do what you are trained to do. You compress the train before hitting the snowdrift, so you don't have like a massive amount of slack in the train. Makes it more comfortable for passengers, makes it more comfortable for the freight, and you also reduce the chance of derailment. Schwarzenegger, why do you never talk during train riding recording? The reason for that is that I don't want to talk when working. My focus is on the operation of the train. So what I do when I record these videos, I place the camera, I hit record, and that's it. And it's just going, and I don't kind of talk except for when I talk to the traffic central or dispatcher, etc., or the transport leader in a company. Besides that, no, I don't talk to anyone, and I don't want to record communications, because a lot of it falls under national security and stuff like that. So yeah, and I don't want to identify other railway employees. Ankershille, do you ever see or hit animals on the line such as deer? Yes. Sadly, yes. I have hit a lot of birds. I can tell you that pigeons explode. Looks like they explode. I have hit a moose at speeds that made it into a pink mist. I have hit deers and fawns, and there are a lot of animals, rodents, rabbits, etc. So we see animals a lot, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all, hitting an animal, no matter the size. But thankfully, they have now, I think it was after 2000, they started to chop down the trees around the railway. So they made a 15-meter clearing on each side of the track, not only to prevent trees from falling on the line or reduce the chance of, but also reduce the chance of animals like using the tracks as the path, because that's the place where it was least amount of snow. So you can imagine that we do have most animal strikes during the winter compared to summer. But yeah, sadly, there has been a lot of wildlife ending by crossing my path. See you later, Peter. DPUs? David, what do you mean about DPUs? I'm Wadlonton. When there are numerous tracks, how do you change tracks? That is the traffic controller who decides where my train path is going to be. Naomi Garza, yeah, my identity covers are so funny. Oh, I love them myself. Tiger Hawk, I'm gonna slap you for that one. Larissa Packer, yeah, this is Bergen Station. It's a terminal station, and now we are going to go around with Locomotive to connect to the train you see we just arrived with, which is the carriages you see to the left. And then we're going to be pulling out on track 84 and then slip back into the terminal. Dusty, the reversing sound is not from the train, it's from the communication device or radio we use for shunting from the lookout. So that sound is not annoying at all. It is a clear indication that he or she is still on the train, because if that person falls off, he or she will release the button, the sound will stop, and that means that I stop as well. Adamar, most of the tracks seem to be close to rocky mountain walls. Are bigger rocks on the tracks a common thing? No, thankfully not. Thank you so much for the soup chat, Roy boy. Ricerus, I was wondering how the train driving school experience was for you. Did you rent a place nearby, or did you travel a lot every day? And how was it in general? My experience with the school was excellent. At that time, I did live in Oslo. I am from Oslo, or a place just outside. And so I owned an apartment in Oslo when I started there. So yeah, it was like a sweet breeze, basically. I was able to double that with the one job I already had. So I was doing my job in weekends and driving or going to the academy every other day. But then when we started to do our practice time outside, then I had to quit my job as a tram driver in Oslo because it just didn't add up anymore time-wise. And so because of that and everything else, it worked out fine. And I just have to say that that time at school, even though it was intense back then, a lot of studying and stuff like that, it was fun. It was challenging. It was fun. You got to see a whole different aspect of the railroad industry. So yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much for super chat, Just. Gilbert Arnold, funny. Schwarzenegger, what kind of train? Well, let's see. The question again. What type of train is the train of your dreams? Train of my dreams. Train of my dreams. Something I have on my bucket list that I really want to do is like super high speed trains, like the TGV, like the Intercity Express in Germany. That goes beyond 300 kilometers per hour. That would be really awesome. Nicholas Carpenter, how often do you utilize GSMR? Every day. It is our main communication system between the traffic controller and the train, and so that is the bread and butter of all communications in our railroad world. Elven Home, how much further does the line run ahead? Does it still go all the way to Arna? No, sadly it doesn't. It stops right there where you see kind of the blinking yellow light in front of us by the square building. That is basically where it ends. And they are refurbishing the tunnel over there. I'm not sure what they are like refurbishing it to, but I think it's completely closed now due to the extension of the tram system and the metro in Bergen. Taboo, why do you want to drive freight trains? I needed a change, and freight trains are cool. Have you ever been further up on the Kronstad track by Black Sheep? Yes, when I do the super long trains of over 600, I have to go all the way to like the track stopper, all the way up there. So almost been to the tunnel, but not further than that. Teatron, thank you for that information. Now I know. Then I also know that I will never go through that tunnel ever in the future. Big Sky, what is the rail width in Norway? We are 4 feet 85.5 inches here. Yes, 143.5 centimeters. It's the same here in Norway. We use 1435 millimeters. Kirkland, do you have CCTV pointing backwards when reversing like this? No, I do have a person on the last carriage who is the lookout, which is making the beeping sound. Oh, Marias, how many days per week do you drive trains? Is there a certain fixed number of working days that you have, or do we have working hours? We have, with the shifts we're working, we are at 33.6 hours a week. So I work really compressed. So I have done my hours in like 4 days. So yeah, and I like working like that. So now we have come to the end of the line, like literally, end this stream. So thank you everyone for joining in tonight. It's over 700. It's been crazy, and thank you. You guys are so awesome. So I hope to do this again, like in the near future. And until then, I say good night to wherever you are, and see you again in the near future. Thank you. Bye.